What's up everybody, Alex here, back again from Pokemon TCG HQ. Hopefully this video there won't be any sort of lag compared to what we saw last time. But I'm back again with another deck skeleton sort of profile of a very interesting deck, which again another deck which I've enjoyed playing. You'll sort of see a recurring theme of the sort of decks that I actually have began to enjoy recently. But what I'm going to have a quick look at is actually this sort of speed metal or turbo metal kind of deck. So what I'm going to show you is a skeleton, sort of give you the bare bones of what I think is required in the deck. So this is the list here. It revolves generally around two main cards. That is, of course, its main attacker, which is Dusk Mane Necrozma, 190 HP basic, with its two main attacks, which you don't tend to use Claw Sash very much for free colorless energy for 60 damage. You mainly use it for Meteor Tempest, which requires 3 metal and 1 colorless. Does deals 220 damage, but it discards 3 energy from this Pokemon. And you also use it for its GX attack, which is for 3 metal energy. It's 250 damage, Sun's Eclipse GX, and you can only use this attack if you have more prize cards remaining than your opponent. So those two very, very big, massive attacks should be able to one-hit KO pretty much everything in the format, particularly many of the more popular GX Pokemon having around 210 HP now. And of course its GX attack is able to actually one-hit anything in the format, as it currently is, based on their HP. So that's your main attacker. The way you accelerate energy to be able to use the Dusk Mane Necrozma GX to attack is using this Solgaleo Prism card, which really what this deck should try and revolve itself around. So as a Prism card you can only play one of in your deck, and it goes to the lost zone again, instead of your discard pile if it is discarded or gets knocked out. But for 1 metal energy it has Radiant Star, which for each of your opponent's Pokemon in play, attach a metal energy card from your discard pile to your Pokemon in any way you like. So by being able to discard energies into your discard pile using the typical cards that are 4-ofs like Ultra Ball, and in this case Professor Sycamore, or even just ways of just retreating the active Pokemon, and actually attaching extra energy using Max Elixir, you're able to really quickly ramp up energy onto your board, energy onto your Dusk Mane Necrozmas, so that you can actually start attacking with it, and taking 2 prizes per turn. And that's essentially how this deck works. You look to discard as many energies into your discard pile as possible, with so many decks nowadays playing stuff like Bridget, and playing so many different like stage 1 decks like Zoroark, and having generally quite a large bench, or just Pokemon in play in general. You're able to accelerate a lot of energy onto the board very quickly. Of course there's certain cases where you aren't able to. We also play a Registeel, which has the Turbo Arm attack. So for 1 metal, attach a basic energy from your discard pile to one of your bench Pokemon. So similar to the Yveltal. For dark types, this is again the metal version. Has higher retreat, but still has 130 HP as a basic Pokemon. So it's still pretty useful in that regard. So the rest of sort of the skeleton, as it were, does require you to of course play some Tapu Lele-GXs. Again, I've only put 2 for now, but of course this is, it's down to your own list and how you interpret it and change it for yourselves, but allowing you to grab the supporters that you need. So you had a handful of energies and you had a choice between an N or Lele for a Sycamore. Often you would just sort of, depending on your board state and your opponent's board state, of course, you can Lele for the Professor Sycamore, discard the energies and use Radiant Star to build your board. As I said, you play 4 Max Elixir, just again another way of ramping energy onto those Dusk Manes. Having 2 ready is so important for this particular deck, and that's how you really sort of burn through your cards and you burn through your deck in sort of that respect. Of course 4 Ultra Ball, pretty staple in every deck, as I mentioned before. Discarding energies and discarding cards is great, and getting your Pokemon out as soon as possible. The supporter line, again, this is bare bones, but you would look to try and Sycamore those energies into the discard. That's why, in my opinion, this sort of deck should play 4. N is actually an interesting one. It's actually something I probably would prefer to play 2 or 3 of. I've put 2 in for now. The main reason is because for you to use that Sun's Eclipse GX, you have to be behind in prizes. And if you're behind in prizes, N tends to be the better card to play in that respect. So Cynthia, I probably should just put 2 here as well for now, but I've left it at 3. But again, at the same time, more often than not, you want to be drawing as many cards as possible and burning through your deck. So that's possibly why I've actually put N as 2 and Cynthia as slightly higher count. Guzma, I've put 3 of. There's a massive argument whether you should actually play 4 because you want to be taking knockouts on, Pokemon that you want to be knocking out, not necessarily they're active. So being able to Guzma and change your opponent's active Pokemon so that you can bring up the Dusk Mane Necrozma and knock out maybe your opponent's usage of a Zoroark on the bench so that they can trade less, for example. But that's probably why you play a much higher count as well. But I've put a bare minimum of 3. And additionally, these sort of metal Pokemon, they have a really large retreat cost. So you see Solgaleo's got a 3 energy retreat. Registeel's got a 3 energy retreat. And I think Dusk Mane also has a 3 energy retreat cost. So that is actually all the bare minimum you need in terms of actually building this deck and then start fleshing out with cards that actually complement the sort of strategy of this deck. Sorry, I forgot to mention there's 12 energies. In fact, I think you'd actually have to up this because you want to get those energies onto the board, onto those Dusk Manes as soon as possible. If you get 2, great, with probably 3 energy each, that's ideal. If you somehow get a 3rd Dusk Mane ready and out to play with another 3 energy on the board, by that time you've probably won the game. So that's the bare bone list. Let me know what you guys can fill it up with. So the sort of things that you want to play to complement this deck are additional ways to use Radiant Star, additional ways of using Turbo Arm, maybe additional attackers. You want extra draw support. And then it comes down to certain cards such as tool cards. So you'd have to consider playing stuff like Float Stones and Choice Bands. Float Stones again because of the large retreat costs of the metal type Pokemon. Choice Bands is useful because it allows Solgaleo itself to be able to do 190 with Corona Impact, which is really cool as a basic Pokemon as well. And it's already pretty tanky of 160 HP, so you'd be able to hopefully Radiant Star and then be able to take a knockout using it as well. And then it's just additional things of just trying to increase the sort of support accounts, the energies, and essentially just burn it through the deck. But what I'll do now is quickly show you what I was working with, and I actually did play it in one of the regional league cups. I think I just bubbled out of top 16 for points. I had an unfortunate time of prizing that Solgaleo Prism once or twice, which can sort of impact your strategy sometimes. But what I'll do is just quickly show you what I've got. Yep, it's an invalid deck. We know you can't play it. So standard, I think I just called it Speed Metal. So this is what I played essentially in a cup. There are a couple of things I probably would quickly change based on this deck. But the most interesting card to have a little look at, and it was something that Scott and Seb Simmons, so they were the original people who sort of brought this to light for a few of us UK players and showed us this interesting concept. But it was using this Mew from Fates Collide, I believe. So Memories of Dawn, you can use any attacks of your basic Pokemon in play. So it allows you to copy, for 1 Metal Energy, Radiant Star. And the main reason why you play the Mew over anything else, or maybe focusing on the Registeel play, is because it only has 50 HP. So if you're able to get a Radiant Star off, build loads of energy on the board, or have free energy on the Dusk Mane ready, more often than not, your opponent actually has to knock out the Mew. You can also potentially threaten with the Mew by attaching a second Metal Energy to it as well, because it can of course use Dusk Mane Necrozma's attacks. But by forcing their hand and actually knocking out the Mew, you can then bring up this Dusk Mane Necrozma, use Sun's Eclipse for your second, third turn. They would more often than not struggle to knock out the Dusk Mane Necrozma, and then you attach another energy and use Meteor Tempest. So just through this play alone, you may go down 1 prize because of the Mew as a basic Pokemon, non-GX, non-EX Pokemon. But then you have a Dusk Mane Necrozma which should or could take 4 prizes in the next 2 turns. And that's the real value of having a Mew as well. To make it even more broken, this Mew has a free retreat cost, so it doesn't even matter if it doesn't get knocked out and something else is targeted instead. You have the option to retreat from this, use Guzma and retreat from this into your main attackers if you need to. And it just provides so much value to this sort of speed deck, being able to use all of your basic Pokemon's attacks, and also just allows you to preserve the Solgaleo Prism because you only play 1 copy. So yeah, that's probably important there. I upped the Registeel count to 2 because of the case where you do actually prize the Solgaleo Prism. You do sometimes have to go with the Registeel play, so you start using Turbo Arm to power up your Dusk Mane Necrozmas or Mews, and combined with Max Elixir, you then are able to do exactly the same sort of play. Maybe a slight bit slower sometimes, but it all depends on how many energy you can get in your discard when you do use the Radiant Star of the Solgaleo Prism attack. Kept the Dusk Mane Necrozma account as free, so it's 3 Mews, 2 Registeel, 3 Dusk Mane Necrozma, Solgaleo. I play 1 Cobalion because I feel more often than not this card actually wins you games. Quick Guard's quite unique, quite cool to buy yourself a turn if required, but it's a bit of a struggle now because of cards like Zoro, like all these non-basic Pokemon that are so heavily played now. But I found it quite useful against cards like Buzzwell, for example. But then you mainly use it for a Revenge Blast, so it's a late game play. It's 30 plus, 30 for each prize card your opponent has taken. So if they've taken 4 prizes, you do 150. With a Choice Band, you do 180. If they've taken 5 prizes, that you're doing 180 base, and then Choice Band, you're doing 210. So you're able to knock out these GX Pokemon that are so heavily played now just by using this Cobalion. And just either Max Elixiring to it, attaching an energy to turn for it, maybe a few turns in advance, because then your opponent has to consider to knock it out, or find a way to play around it. So yeah, upping the count of Tapu Lele to 3 because it's pretty important to actually hit the supporters. I've also included a Octillery line, a 1/1 Octillery line. So this could be an Oranguru, for example, 1 Oranguru and another card. I've always found myself in a position where I'd actually rather have more cards in hand. The 3 sometimes just isn't enough. But it's just, again, for that late game draw and giving you the chance to draw into what you need. So the rest of the cards I sort of included into this sort of original 39 skeleton I've given. So the extra 21 cards include 2 Field Blower, removing those sort of annoying tool cards. Garbodor is quite annoying to deal with sometimes because you sometimes do actually have to rely on a Mew and the Octillery to really get to places. But it's also removing the chances for your opponent to maybe take knockouts using with their own Choice Bands or fighting Fury Belts, for example. But yeah, it just gives you that extra sort of card to mess around with. You might not actually necessarily need 2, but I felt it was quite important. I included 1 Nest Ball. I think it was just another draw card, another Pokemon search card, which allows you to bench your Dusk Mane Necrozmas so that you can Max Elixir them to them. Just pretty standard. A rescue stretcher, so we know we can't get the Solgaleo Prisms, but sometimes it's actually important to maybe get a Cobalion or maybe to get another Dusk Mane Necrozma if they're prized. And because you're using Sycamore so often, sometimes you might have to discard the part of the auxiliary line, which you might need for later games. So having a recovery of Pokemon is pretty useful, since you're looking to burn through your deck so quickly. I play a town map. This was also something championed by Scott Simmons. So important in this deck, because if you do prize that Solgaleo Prism, you're going to need it mid game. So early game, you look to try and take prizes, or take a prize, and then grab that Solgaleo Prism out of your prizes so that you can then use Radiant Star for subsequent turns. Because even late game, when your opponent's down to 2 prizes and you have a Solgaleo Prism, because it's so tanky, you can actually be able to use Radiant Star and just your opponent struggled to take 2 prizes there and then. And that's where you then are able to take the game, just because you've been able to Radiant Star once. But yeah, that's the main reason for town map. It's just so that you can grab the Solgaleo when you need. So I left Cynthia at 3. Guzma I left at 3, which I would change now. Because I also play 2 Choice Band and 2 Floatstone. So my change would actually be, if I do it in front of you guys now, 1 Floatstone less and a 4th Guzma. So I play 2 Choice Band and 2 Floatstone. So Floatstone I've already sort of half mentioned. You just need to be able to retreat those big metal Pokemon and even Octillery. And you'd also have Choice Band here, because what I found with Solgaleo is I had a strange matchup where I actually had to attack a lightning Pokemon, which I think it might have been a Raichu GX, which meant I couldn't knock it out with Meteor's Tempest without a Choice Band. It might have just been playing online and just mucking around his deck. But it's similarly with things like Mew. If you have to use something like Iron Head and a Buzzwole, you need a Choice Band to knock it out. But it's mainly just using sort of that Meteor's Tempest, and sometimes if you need to stretch a bit further, maybe to knock out a Decidueye or a Gardevoir, well, not Gardevoir because you hit for weakness already, but Decidueye and I don't know, any other sort of higher HP GX Pokemon, EX Pokemon. And finally, up the energy count to 15. I think that's pretty required in a lot of Max Elixir decks. In decks that are focused on sort of this turbo approach to sort of a deck, as it were. So it's quite interesting how different this would be compared to like a Magnezone Necrozma deck. But I feel like this is a really cool and really fun build of metal. But yeah, there you go, guys. Hopefully that'll give you some ideas to muck around with. Let me know what you guys think and how you might change this deck, or how you might alter the deck or include different cards or different tech cards, which might be useful. The one thing that might be missing is another attacker, so that Mew could potentially copy a lower energy attack, which might be able to knock out a Buzzwole a bit easier than having 3 energies on it. But you know, it's one of those things where maybe it just has to use Revenge Blast after Buzzwole's taking a few knockouts, for example. So what I'll do now is same with what I've done with the Darkrai video. I will go into a game and yeah, just try and showcase it a little bit. So bear with me one moment. Right, so we'll just look for an opponent now and just see if we can just again showcase the whole deck in its greatness, if it works, and we'll just see if it yeah, just works as it should. I've played it fairly often just on PCGO now, and I found that more often than not it's absolutely fine. So we will be going first, which is pretty good for us. Hopefully we start Mew, free retreater. That's not ideal, but it's workable. So we'll start with Remoraid in the active position, because it has a 1 retreat cost. And we'll bench Dusk Mane Necrozma. It's very likely we might actually bench that Registeel as well, just to have it as an option. So we are playing a... Okay, this is going to be a bit of a struggle. Shinotic Decidueye deck. Maybe there's a Leafeon in there somewhere as well. But I don't believe I saw a colorless energy type in the deck, in the sort of match preview, as it were. But we'll see how it goes. Hand isn't too bad. So Cobalion is a little bit less useful this time round. And yeah, we'll just have a little look how they start first. So attach energy to Remoraid. I think I will just bench the Registeel anyway, so we'll Max Elixir. So it looks like a Lurantis Decidueye deck, and then we'll play Cynthia. See what we can draw into. Ideally, we draw into a Mew. There's a Floatstone. That's actually not too bad for us. We can Ultra Ball. So we'll just have a quick check of our prizes. Octillery is available. Mew is there. Two more Tapu Lele-s. Solgaleo Prism is prized. Right. Town map is available. So what does this mean? This potentially means we have to grab Octillery here. Because we will actually have to start turbo arming. No, we'll grab a Mew. We'll grab a Mew, because then hopefully he can actually still knock it out with Lurantis' first attack. We'll just retreat. So there's free energy in there. So now that we know the situation that we're in, this could be a little bit more annoying to deal with, but we shall see. So let's see how my opponent plays this out. So it was a good thing I did actually bench the Registeel then, of course. I feel like that was always going to be the right play, but now I can actually turbo arm where I need to. Be interesting to see what kind of... I'm assuming it might not just be Lurantis GX, which is actually being played here. I do reckon it also might be the one which provides extra damage. So it's not an Ultra Ball for a Bridget. It's an Ultra Ball for a Rowlet and a Synthesis from Fermantis. So we can't end him. So we're in a situation where we probably want to just put cards down, attached to the Mew, and we'll just Tapu Lele. We'll just Cynthia again. We could Sycamore, but we already know we can't Radiant Star right now. So we'll just we'll Cynthia first. So we already know there's free energies. So I think I won't bench the Dusk Mane for now, mainly because it just becomes a target, which is a bit annoying. Which might not actually be too bad, because we do have Guzma in hand. Alright, so we'll just not encounter, we'll Turbo Arm, 30 damage, Metal Energy onto Dusk Mane, so put a second one down. So because we have Necrozma, what we can actually do next turn is actually also Guzma any one of his bench Pokemon. So he does have Flower Supply ready, he does have a Sycamore. Maybe that's why he didn't want to bridge it, but it's interesting. I do wonder if it's important to knock out this Moralo. Let's see. So 50 times attached to this Pokemon, right? So it's not going to be knocking out anything anytime soon. What do I kill this Rowlet? If I kill Rowlet, it does look like I'm going to be having to knock out quite a few different things. But if I kill the Moralo, it means he can't get anything out. So I'm actually going to be I'm going to be a bit more aggressive here. We'll just use Claw Slash. I do have Meteor Tempest for the next turn. And then I could potentially start trying to build out another Dusk Mane. Okay, so that way he hasn't been able to get anything going. He has enemy. I have loads of energy left in deck. It's already 5 energy, 6 energy on board. There's an Octillery, there's another Mew. So here I will be looking to try and just knock out this Lurantis, because he's only going to be doing 40. That leaves Necrozma with 150 HP. So evolve Remoraid into Octillery. It's a shame to get rid of those Mews. We should have access to other things anyway. There's a Metal Energy. There's Town Map, so we can finally grab Solgaleo's Prism. There's the Rescue Stretcher as well. Just blow that. Rowlet, because that's annoying. Okay, so attached to Necrozma, we have Guzma for next turn. Octillery for 1. Just see what we draw into. No Metal Energy. Let's have a quick look what we want to try and grab. So we want to grab the Solgaleo Prism for sure, and most likely the Max Elixir. So we would Meteor's Tempest for the knockout. And here we know we can't play the Sycamore because obviously the cards we had to definitely take out of the prizes. So really here, there's Shiinotic, which is quite an annoying Pokemon to deal with. So it has Illuminates once per turn, so you search that for a grass Pokemon. And there you go. So he will be ending me, but I have Octillery out now, which is pretty cool. Will he go for another Grass Energy to Chloroscyph GX and knock out my Dusk Mane? It does seem very likely. And then my players actually try and get Solgaleo Prism out from this end. Draw into it, which is always nice, and into the Max Elixir. There's a rare candy into a Decidueye, which kills my Mew. I say kills, KOs my Mew. Which is quite sad. Oh, right. That is a pretty interesting turn. Has 2 retreat costs. Oh, right, okay. How do I do this? I can't use Sun's Eclipse yet, so we'll have to go with Solgaleo. I think we keep the Guzma for now. I think I end him here. I can't end. So, we will Cynthia. Very good. I have 2 ends. Play both of them. Or, nah. Cynthia. 1 retreat cost. Just don't need it in hand. Cynthia. So we can get 6 energy on board. So Dusk Mane has to get 3, so he has 4 energy. ideally we didn't want to use that Tapu Lele, but Cobalion's fine. Okay, so we go Registeel. Artillery, so we have only one energy more to retreat. Tapu Lele. Probably could have gone a active Solgaleo Prism, but it's not a problem because he wouldn't be able to really knock KO too much at all. So it'll be interesting to see how my opponent now plays this out. Potentially, I've played this badly, but we'll see. So there goes my float stones. There's Illuminate. So right now he's capped at 160 damage, which could knock out my Solgaleo. But I don't think he will do that. If he does, that's a really poor decision. He should really start targeting my bench. So it looks like he is actually going for the Solar Blade attack, which now leaves me in a position where I can use my GX attack. This is brilliant. So we'll put down to Cobalion. We're just gonna have a little look and draw out my deck first. So 5 energy, there's Choice Fan, which is what we might need later. There's 3 Guzma in play as well. So we'll get the Registeel just so we can Sycamore it out of my way. Attach Tapu Lele. We're just burning cards out of our deck so we can actually retreat. We'll hold on to the Choice Band and we'll use Sun's Eclipse for 250. Should probably people actually complain to me when I actually don't click that, don't show this again, but take Rescue Stretcher and an Ultra Ball so we can actually Rescue Stretcher that Tapu Lele if anything does somehow get knocked out. He's capped at 90 plus 40, 130 damage, so he can actually Lysander that Cobalion, attach a DC to Decidueye and actually knock it out, but then it just leaves myself open to knocking out this. So I'm interested in maybe, nope, Tapu Lele deals 120, 150. Oh, okay. If he gets a DC and Tapu Lele with a Choice Band, but he didn't bring it active in the first place, that could be another out. Because then he can do 2 Feather Arrows and he wins the game. But let's have a little look. So he has double Feather Arrowed my active Necrozma. He has Enemy. I do have access to Artillery, so there's no Guzma play. He doesn't end himself down to 2. There's the Choice Band, which I need to win. His Head's Untimable, gets another Dartrix out. And I'm assuming he can't actually do anything else. But, I mean, I just Abyssal Hand, attach Choice Band, which is why we play it. Could have done it to... And then we'll just Meteor Tempest for 250, discarding 3 energy and taking the game by taking the final prize. But yeah, that is an example of the deck in action. Hopefully that kind of showed you or gave you an idea of how the deck runs and how it works. Let me know what you guys think of the deck. Are there any cards that you would try and play in the deck as well, or any other different counts or slight different builds? And yeah, I'd appreciate any sort of comments. It's really appreciated. Thank you very much for your time. Peace out, guys.